Have you ever been laughed at for something you couldn't change? For a scar that told a story no one cared to understand? People see imperfection and call it weakness. But truth is, our scars carry strength where the world once tried to break us. I used to think mine made me less. Then he proved it. He laughed at my scars like they were a joke, like the pain that built me was something to mock. That moment was small to everyone else. A cruel smile, a few thoughtless words, but to me, it split my heart open in a way nothing ever had. I remember the room falling silent, the heat flooding my face. He kept laughing. Everyone else pretended not to hear. It's funny how humiliation makes time slow down. How you can hear your own heartbeat while the world pretends you aren't bleeding. I walked away that night with my chin up and my spirit crumbling beneath the weight of their stares. That there's something about pain. It doesn't disappear. It transforms. It waits quietly, growing into something the heart can reclaim. People call it karma, but I call it timing. Life has this beautiful way of returning to the place it once burned. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission. It just shows you that what was meant to crush you was really shaping you instead. That night of cruel laughter was just the beginning of a truth bigger than my pain. A truth that would change more than he ever imagined. Because when it comes to pain and justice, the scars we carry are never the final word. Before I tell you what happened next, pause for a second, because maybe you felt it too. That sting from a careless laugh. The burn of someone mocking the pain you thought you'd already overcome. If this story is touching something familiar inside you, that's not an accident. It means you understand what it's like to carry scars you didn't ask for, yet wear them like truth. If you've ever been judged for what made you strong, give this video a like. It may seem small, but every click tells me these stories matter, that behind every screen, there's someone finding courage again. And if you've ever turned pain into power, write in the comments. Asterisk, asterisk, I felt that. Asterisk, asterisk, it's a simple way to stand with everyone who's ever been laughed at and still stood tall. If you're new here, welcome to Asterisk, the weight of memories. Asterisk, a place where love, truth, and karma meet, where every story turns hurt into healing. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because the next story might remind you that every wound has its lesson, and every scar has its purpose. Now, keep watching, because the night he laughed wasn't the end. It was only the start of what karma had been waiting to deliver. It happened on a Friday night, the kind of evening that almost feels safe, the music low, the laughter easy, people pretending their lives are picture perfect. I remember wearing a long black dress that covered everything I once hated about myself. The lighting was soft golden. It hid edges and flaws, kind to faces, cruel to reality. He was across the table, smiling the way he always did when he wanted attention. And then, out of nowhere, he said it a joke, a cruel one, the kind that makes the whole room go silent for a second before the laughter follows. He asterisk laughed at my scars. Asterisk just 5 words, but they split something open inside me that no surgery ever could. The room spun, but I kept my smile. That's what you do when the world decides your pain is entertainment. You pretend it doesn't matter. My truth was sitting there on my skin, while his arrogance filled the air like smoke. I could hear my heartbeat louder than the music, my memories whispering of a past I had fought my way out of. The weight of that moment was too heavy for the silence to hold. Yet no one spoke. No one said a word for me. When I left that night, I could still hear the echo of their laughter following me out the door. It clung to me like perfume I didn't choose to wear. I looked at myself in the car mirror and thought, maybe he's right. Maybe these marks still define me. That beneath the hurt was something else brewing, something quiet, patient, waiting for its moment. Because the truth about pain is that it changes shape when you stop running from it. And what he didn't know was that even my scars had karma woven through them. If you've ever stood quiet while someone made you feel small, write one word below asterisk, asterisk strength, asterisk, asterisk. Because sometimes the real power is not in fighting back, but in what comes after. When I got home that night, I stripped off the dress before I even turned on the lights. My skin still burned where his words had landed, like they had weight, like they could bruise. I stood in front of the mirror and let the shadows outline every scar I'd spent years trying to forget. The reflection wasn't kind, but it was honest. Each mark had its own story. A fall, a surgery, a night I thought would never end. I remembered the doctor's voices, the painkillers, the fear that my body would never feel whole again. But that night, no scar hurt as much as the one he had just opened with a laugh. I traced the longest one with my fingertip and whispered to no one, "You were the price for survival." Maybe that's what the world doesn't understand. Our scars aren't signs of brokenness. They're reminders that we made it through what should have destroyed us. Still, it's hard to believe that when others stare too long or pretend they don't see. I wrapped myself in a loose sweater and sat by the window, watching the rain trace lines on the glass. It looked like the sky was crying for me, dissolving the night's silence. I thought of how small I'd felt when his laughter filled the room, how I had swallowed the instinct to give him a piece of my truth. But the truth doesn't stay quiet forever. It waits, growing in the corners of your heart like a seed that's been watered by tears. And as rain fell harder outside, I realized I could either keep being the punchline or become the lesson karma was preparing to teach. If you've ever looked at a part of yourself and whispered, "I'm still here," type asterisk, asterisk, truth, asterisk, asterisk. Because every mark that once hurt can someday become part of your power. The next week I saw him again. Same circle of people, same table, same glow of fake smiles floating over shallow conversations. But this time something inside me had shifted. I wore a sleeveless dress on purpose. My scars were there, visible, unapologetic. When our eyes met, I noticed the flicker in his expression. A mix of surprise and the faint realization that what he'd mocked refused to disappear. I smiled, a calm, steady smile that carried all the truth I hadn't spoken that night. But inside, I was still trembling. Courage never feels like courage when you're using it. It feels like survival. The weight in the room was different now. Every laugh sounded a little more forced, every gesture a little more careful. He watched me from across the table, maybe waiting for me to look away again, but I didn't. I let silence be louder than his mockery. And as he shifted in his seat, I could feel the power of what it means to own your story, even when someone else tried to erase it. People say revenge is sweet, but there's something sweeter about grace. About letting the light hit what the world once called ugly, and calling it beautiful instead. That night, when I got home and stood again before the mirror, the same reflection didn't feel like a wound anymore. It felt like proof. Because sometimes you don't have to scream your worth. You just have to stand in it until no one can deny it. I didn't know it yet, but karma was already moving the pieces I couldn't see, on its way to remind him that mocking pain always comes with a price. If you know what it feels like to turn pain into power, comment asterisk, asterisk, strength, asterisk, asterisk. Because that's how you tell the world you're no longer hiding. It was months later when I heard the news. A short message from a mutual friend, casual in tone but heavy in meaning. He'd fallen ill, something sudden, something serious. They said the doctors weren't sure how bad it was yet. I stared at the screen, not knowing whether to feel pity or satisfaction. Karma had a strange sense of timing. I thought about that night, the laughter, the sting, the cracks that his words had left, and wondered if this was how the universe balanced its scales. But as the truth settled in, there was no joy in it, only quiet disbelief. Days passed, and I found myself standing at the hospital corridor, unsure why I'd come. Maybe to see him one last time, or maybe to face what his cruelty had awakened inside me. The room was bright and cold, the hum of machines breaking the silence. When he looked up and saw me, his pride collapsed faster than his body ever could. His voice was softer now, fragile. "I'm sorry," he whispered, eyes glistening not from pain, but from regret. I didn't speak. Some apologies don't need answers. Still, when I reached for his hand, his fingers curled around mine like a man clinging to forgiveness. In that stillness, I felt the weight of everything shift. It wasn't revenge. It was release. The mockery that had once scarred me had turned into a lesson only life itself could teach. Karma hadn't come to punish him. It had come to free me. There are moments when the past asks you to choose between anger and peace. And in that room, holding the hand of the man who once laughed at my scars, I finally understood how healing feels when it stops needing an audience. If you've ever forgiven someone who didn't deserve it, but knew it was the only way to set yourself free, write **forgiveness**, because that's the moment when karma turns into grace. After that day, I didn't see him again. Word spread quietly that he'd recovered but moved away, leaving behind the same circle of people who once laughed at the wrong things. Life flowed forward, slow but steady, and I began to notice how different the world looked when I was no longer carrying anger as armor. The pain had not vanished, but it had changed shape, becoming something gentle, almost protective. My scars weren't symbols of shame anymore. They were maps of everything I'd survived. One morning, while I was getting ready for work, I caught my reflection again, the same mirror that had once reflected humiliation. Now it showed strength. The same lines on my skin, but a completely different woman. For so long I thought he was the story's author, that his laughter defined the chapter I was trapped in. But the truth was this: the moment I forgave him, I rewrote the ending. Sometimes karma does its work through pain, other times through peace. Ours just happened to find both. That night, I lit a candle by the window and thanked the universe for every scar, every lesson, every bit of darkness that taught me how to shine. I whispered, "You were wrong about me, but thank you for helping me see what I was made of." And in that whisper was the weight of closure. I didn't need his approval anymore, or his regret, or an audience to prove what I already knew, that strength born from pain is the most beautiful kind. If this story reached a part of you, write ****. I receive **** in the comments. And if you felt something stir while watching, subscribe to * The Weight of Memories ***, and leave a like, so these truths can find more people who need to hear them. The next video is on your screen. Now a story about how forgiveness can turn loss into light. Click it and keep walking with me through the weight of our memories.